I'm Matt, a commercial film director and private pilot. My job making car commercials and running a business takes me all over the world, and sometimes I get to fly myself.
So I wanted to make a video that kind of showed what a VFR flight for work looks like, at least what it looks like from my perspective. I'm certainly not an authority on all this, and I'm willing to take criticism from anybody. And I think a lot of people think when you're flying VFR that's only good for hamburgers, sunset flights with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or beating up the pattern. In my business life, I fly give or take 200,000 miles on commercial airlines every year. And up till 2020 with COVID, that's been about 290 to 320 days away from home every single year. I got my private pilot certificate in 2016 because part of our corporate 333 exemption for drone work as a commercial drone pilot required it. By the time I completed my private exam in late May of 2016, I had purchased a Grumman Tiger, a 1976 Grumman Tiger, as my personal aircraft. I've been flying that ever since, and up until recently I didn't have my instrument rating, and part of that was because I was gone all the time, and I never really had 2 weeks home in one stretch to make sure that I could polish up my instrument skills to the point that I could take a check ride, let alone stay current with all that. This year gave me the opportunity to finish up my instrument rating, but at the time that I shot this video, I was still a VFR only pilot with the required instrument time. I had passed my written and I was comfortable instrument flying, but I had not yet taken my check ride. This year, because of COVID, I've probably flown between 65 and 70 hours just for work. And that means I am taking my personal aircraft, flying in with my gear or meeting the gear that's already there, and flying back all on my own, which I much prefer to commercial airlines for a number of reasons, even though I've spent a good portion of the last 10 years of my life on a commercial flight. So I'll take you back a couple months when I was flying from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Annapolis, Maryland for the shoot for Gymkana 11 with Hoonigan and Travis Pastrana. In this scenario, when I'm working for Hoonigan, I'm just a camera operator or drone pilot, and this time I was operating full-size drone and FPV drone. So I often take a look, weeks out, anytime a shoot's about to get confirmed or I think it might happen, and I say to myself, can I take the Tiger for this shoot? Is it a better deal, whether that's time, money, or flexibility to take my own airplane versus take United Airlines? Most of the time, the Tiger can beat the airlines, and it can certainly beat a car if I'm in the 200 to 700 nautical mile range. I fly from Grand Rapids, which means I almost always have to connect. Plus, even with TSA PreCheck and global entry, security with batteries on the front side of the flight, checking and receiving your bags on the end of the flight, and then transportation. When you're going through big airports, obviously that can take up a lot of time. So I'm looking at 6 hours on United and a quick look into ForeFlight like I do for pretty much any flight I've ever been on, whether that's international, domestic, or whatever, tells me that I can get there about 3.5 to 4 hours with my Grumman Tiger. So I'm obviously beating United, plus it looks like a pretty cool flight, and I'll have some more flexibility on the way back. All right, it's all loaded up, and I think this is kind of neat. I didn't even have to fold the seats down. I got an Inspire, a red package, my personal stuff, FPV kit, and then some power and stuff in the back. If you fold the seats down, I have tons more room, but you got to take them out and then you don't have them with you. So I'll start a couple days out. First, identifying that yes, this is in fact a flight that I can do in the Tiger. It's less than 700 miles. The weather looks pretty good, at least in the Outlook briefing. It looks like something that I can accomplish. I'm not going across the Rockies. I'm not going far west. There is some complex airspaces, but I'll punch it into ForeFlight, 8 Delta 4, W29, which is the closest airport to my hotel, and see what I'm dealing with right off the bat. So initially, Grand Rapids and Lansing Charlie airspace, deal with those all the time. Kind of run into my first big obstacle here in the form of Detroit's Bravo airspace, which in the back of my head, I'm saying, okay, I can top that at 10,000 feet, go right over the top. Alternatively, you go around, underneath, or take a VFR flyway, through the airspace itself, which might cost you some time and might force you to get pretty low. I prefer to fly high, fast, and burning the least amount of fuel possible, so I'm always going to go higher versus lower. But then I have to cross Canada here, which requires a VFR flight plan. I'm comfortable doing that. I've done it a number of times, but you do have to be on a flight plan and talking to ATC. And then I'm crossing Lake Erie. And this could be a pretty big concern because on the direct route with ForeFlight, I'm measuring that at give or take, 40 to 50 miles of open water crossing Lake Erie. You do have a number of islands here, Northern Ohio, Lake Erie Islands, But that's something to be concerned about depending on how you feel about overwater operations. I'm based in Michigan, so almost every flight has some sort of overwater operation, but it's in the back of my mind. Then Cleveland's airspace, again, I can top it, go around it, hope they give me a clearance through it, but you can't rely on that. Then Pittsburgh's airspace. Then we have some mountains in Pennsylvania, and you might be like, mountains, Pennsylvania? But I promise you they actually do make some weather, and on the way back, you'll actually see we have some mountain obscuration. And then we get into some really complex airspace in the form of some restricted areas outside of DC, and then DC itself with the Special Flight Rules area, the SFRA, which requires you to take a course online with a quiz to be able to fly through it and then identify an entry and exit point, or gate as they're called, to get through the DC area. And then landing at Bay Bridge. Also within this area is the Baltimore metro area, the Baltimore Bravo, the Reagan Bravo. It's a very, very complex airspace. So I'll take an initial look at that and say, like, man, that's really complex at the end of my flight. I personally feel comfortable with that, but is there a way I can make it easier on myself? Do I have to go through the SFRA? It's going to cost me any time to go around it. Do I have to go through Detroit's airspace or top it? Or does it cost me any time to go around it? Is the weather, which is very important, going to prevent me from doing any of those things that I've decided to do? For instance, on this flight, I wanted to cross Detroit's airspace at 10,000 feet over the top. There was a cloud deck at 9,000 feet. On VFR, it was completely overcast. I could not get through it to get on top, which prevented me from crossing Detroit's airspace. And that's kind of like, if you think of the airspace like a cylinder, you now have a top, and you can't get through that top if you're VFR. If you're IFR, it doesn't matter anyway, because they're just going to vector you or do whatever you have to do. But you have to kind of think what sort of variables could be introduced on the flight itself. Even if the weather looks good, leave yourself 3, 4, 5 options. And none of them are really a big deal. In this case, you go around and go underneath or whatever, but that should be in the back of your mind. I can't get on top of the airspace, need to go around. I have the fuel to do that. I've already made a rough plan on how to do that. So how can I make those easier for the day itself? And first, looking at the SFRA, I'm just cutting the corner of it, so do I have to deal with it at all? If I take a VFR fly route through Baltimore here, that's going to put me below 1,500 feet potentially. MSL, which I would prefer not to do over a metro area. The same with the Chesapeake Bay, below 1,500 feet. To me, is not ideal. I'd like to be as high as possible. And so with a quick glance, I think I can avoid this restricted area here and the SFRA just by dragging my route near Martin State, which MTN there, or Babs actually. Babs will get me around the SFRA and let me keep 2,500 feet in the Baltimore Bravo, so another 1,000 feet, which is nice. And eliminates all that stress of dealing with the SFRA, so that's sweet. We can pretty easily deviate around this restricted area. The mountains are still have to keep a concern. So on the day, I actually planned this around Detroit by picking up Hutt's waypoint here. And that will only cost me a few extra minutes. Actually, it's about 15 minutes. But that simple change now has me along the south side of Lake Erie. I'm not over water. And then I still have to go through Cleveland's Bravo. So with 2 quick taps in ForeFlight, I've avoided most of the hassle of the Baltimore Bravo, the Washington, D.C. SFRA, Detroit's Bravo. That's actually put me back in the Pittsburgh Bravo. But it's made it a little bit easier for me. And as you'll see on the flight itself, this changes and evolves as we're flying. And then the last thing I do is think, okay, this is a 3.5 to 4 hour flight. I have plenty of fuel to do that in one routing, but I like to stop at 3 hour legs. So about halfway point, which is in the Pittsburgh area, what sort of options are available to me for landing to get fuel? So I'll turn on the fuel prices. Sometimes it's not my biggest concern because I'd rather have like food and like a decent spot to land. Turn on fuel prices and try to find something that has affordable fuel with a nice runway, hopefully has a restaurant, has bathrooms. And I do that just by tapping, looking at what the comments are, looking at the remarks, any information that's available to me. If I'm going to need a rental car or crew car or something to that effect. And it looks like Indiana County is a pretty decent midway stop. So I'll just drag that in here for my midway stop. And I'll turn off my fuel prices. And now I'm thinking, okay, I got Cleveland, and that's the edge of Pittsburgh maybe, and then my final arrival. And that's a pretty decent flight plan. Let's hop in the plane and see how it evolves.
Tiger 74619 7,700 climbing.
Number 171, that's 249 Great Lakes Approach, landing altimeter 3024.
3024 for 619. I think the last sector got my call sign wrong. It's Grumman Tiger 74619.
74169er?
74619.
And Grumman 74619er, roger. We'll get that changed.
All right, checking in. We are now underneath that overcast and cruising 7,500, 143 knots across the ground, 2,630 RPM, 380 is our hottest cylinder at 10.3 gallons per hour. Well on our way. We'll hit Zaydue in 25 minutes. We'll climb top Cleveland's Bravo airspace, maintain 9,500, top Pittsburgh, or go around Pittsburgh actually, Pittsburgh's Bravo, and then land, pick up fuel, see what's going on there, change GoPro batteries, grab a snack, pack these. My wife got me these Nature Valley bars. They're crispy, creamy wafer bars, but they're literally just candy bars. I mean, they're peanut butter and chocolate and with wafers. They're nutty bars that you used to get, except it says Nature Valley on it, so you think it's healthy, but it's really just a candy bar. She made me a breakfast burrito too, but I didn't eat it because I had too much going on to eat this morning, which is common. One of the things...
619er, do you want to go direct to your destination with a Bravo clearance?
619er, that would be amazing.
619er, proceed on course, clear to enter Detroit Class Bravo airspace, maintain VFR 7,500.
Maintain VFR 7,500, cleared for the Class Bravo direct 619er. So they just gave me a Bravo clearance, so I can go direct to my destination, which will save me 16 minutes, give or take. So thank you very much, Detroit Approach, for Bravoing me. Give me that Bravo clearance right through there. I really appreciate that. I received that Bravo clearance, and I'm now direct to my destination, which is going to take me right through this, literally over the field of Cleveland's Bravo airspace. So we'll see if they clear me, otherwise I'm going to climb up to go on top like I had planned. But also my new heading now has me going over Lake Erie much more than I initially planned. Originally I was going to hug the shore, and now I'm going to be a good point
1125, Detroit departure, radar contact.
20 miles offshore, which personally I'm fine with that. I'm used to flying over water, and I'll be right on the edge of the glide to get back to the shore if I needed to. I'm obviously not going to enter Canadian's airspace because I never opened that flight plan to cross Canada. So I'll see if I can screen record this. So basically running a slot here along Lake Erie, and this piece right here is Canada. And then I am now taking a track that's going to put me right through Canada. I'm now out over Lake Erie, or starting to cross over Lake Erie, just went over the shore. I just revised my heading just a bit to keep me out of Canada's airspace. I do have a flight plan. I did not open the flight plan because I filed for a different altitude based on my planning earlier this morning. So I'm not honestly sure if I'm authorized to cross into Canada because I didn't open the flight plan that I filed for crossing Canada. I could probably call flight service, ask them to open the flight plan, cross into Canada, or I could just
3736, contact
right,
Cleveland Center, 120.45.
And that should take care of it. So, taking the easy route on this one. We'll see what Cleveland does here. If I can cross their airspace, I'll have to start climbing. Or go way out over the lake. Be interesting here. I had the cameras turned off, but I just received, I just checked in with Cleveland. Detroit handed me out to Cleveland. I checked in with them, and they gave me a clearance to the Bravo at 7,500 on this heading, which means I'm going to go directly over.
45 Mike, turn left direct Beaver.
Right over the center of the field, which is cool. That saves me like a lot of hassle. I don't have to climb up. There's not much cloud left, so that's not a big concern. But I don't have to do that big climb. I don't have to burn those extra 4 gallons. It'll also cost me probably 10 minutes. So that was nice of them. Thank you, Cleveland. I appreciate it. Cleveland City Airport's right there off my left wingtip. I've always wanted to fly in there. It's actually out in the water. Overflew it a couple of years ago on the way back from a shoot out east in Mount Washington. And I've always wanted to land there. It seems like such a rad little spot. Erie, Pennsylvania is right up there too. Not a rad spot. Good fajitas, bad beaches. can't swim unless you have a lifeguard. Absolutely insane to me. Six one niner has weather, Indiana County.
619.
Indiana County, Grumman Tiger 74619 are overflying the field north to south, teardrop entry, left traffic 29, Indiana County. Alright, 65. Bluebird.
Indiana County traffic, Archer 66 Golf. Inbound 5 miles at 2400. Inbound for landing, Indiana County traffic.
Indiana County, Grumman Tiger 74619, turning left crosswind 29, Indiana.
Traffic 66 Golf has downwind traffic in sight.
I can get fly, 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 fly. I can get fly, fly, fly.
November 74619, Potomac, Baltimore, altimeter 3033.
3033609. Alright, I'm in my descent here for skills waypoint, which is basically set at the edge of the Bravo airspace. I have to be under 3,500 feet by that point to slip underneath the Bravo.
Right south of 6826, 2000, on
Be
4000.
underneath 2,500.
6826, coming departure, ready contact, climb, deterb 7 departure.
Controller did just confirm, stay outside the Bravo airspace. Not that I expected to get a clearance for Baltimore, but he did reconfirm that, so I am on the descent to do so. Keeping my descent going here, get under 2,500 to slip under the second shelf of the Bravo airspace before I turn right at Babs. Start on a southerly course towards Whiskey 29er, Stevensville. Going over a Delta underneath a Bravo, inside a TFR, inside a special flight rules area, next to a restricted area. Can't see my eyes right now because I'm wearing sunglasses, but they are big. Alright, finished my descent. They just passed me off, give me a VFR squawk, and headed into Bay Bridge. I see the bridge ahead. I don't have the field in sight, but I know it's right on the other side of the bridge. So we'll start our comms. We'll get to pattern altitude, which is 1005, which is kind of cool. 122725.
Bay Bridge, Baron 273 Quebec is forward to the south on the right base, runway 11. It'll be a full stop and aircraft at the downwind. I'll be on the lookout for you.
619 looking out, the same for you. Bay Bridge, traffic Grumman 619 entering left downwind 11, Bay Bridge. Bay Bridge, traffic Grumman Tiger 74609, turning left base, runway 11, Bay Bridge. And I think I have that Baron in sight.
Still looking for you.
I'm just inside the bridge towers now on the Bay Bridge side.
I'm executing a 360.
Thanks, Baron. Bay Bridge, traffic Grumman 619er, entering final one-way Bay Bridge.
Bay Bridge traffic, Baron 273 Quebec is executing left 360 on the right base, runway 11.
Alright, well that wasn't a pretty landing. I was trying to get it right at the threshold and got a little too slow. I should have given it a little more power. What are you going to do?
So I've read that supposedly there's a crab shack, like, within walking distance, and there must be because I smell Old Bay seasoning in the air right now. Last parking spot, though. at least last blue marked parking spot, because this Pilatus is taking up 2, 3. Pretty wild that the Pilatus can get in here. 2,700 foot. I guess it's at sea level, but still, it's kind of neat to see something this big on the ramp at a field like this. All right, and I know what you're saying, this is probably the easiest VFR flight of all time. There was no real weather to contend with. The only clouds were that first leg, and they were at 9,000 feet. I had a tailwind, clear conditions. It was really easy other than the airspaces. But the way back, after spending a week on the ground, having a great shoot with all my Gymkana 11 buddies and the Hoonigan crew and Travis, I was confronted with a cold front, headwinds, marginal VFR. I did some VFR on top, VFR over the top. A real crappy flight on the way back, and I still had to get home for my wife's birthday, otherwise she'd be quite cross with me. All right, a couple facts and figures for those that care. I logged it as 3.1 hours total flight time, 5 hours give or take from my door at home to the hotel, which includes pre-flight, loading the plane fueling the plane at my midway stop, arrival, unloading the plane, and my ride to the hotel. I burned 34.1 gallons of fuel at my 11 gallon per hour typical average, which includes my climb and my cruise and everything. It's about $153 in fuel costs. Of course, there's a bunch of other costs incurred with just owning the plane, like your hangar, your insurance, and the biggest one for me, which is maintenance. And due to a couple pretty big maintenance costs a few years ago, I'm averaging about $8,000 a year before I even turn the plane on, which adds about $66 an hour for those that care. I don't, so I don't really add that in. United Airlines, 4 hours, 8 minutes, $322 with a connection in O'Hare to Dulles, which then adds a 1 hour 15 drive to the hotel without traffic. And that's before you add in TSA and any other drama that comes with flying commercial. So as far as I'm concerned, I demolished United Airlines on this specific flight. And even if I didn't, I'd still fly myself because it's way more awesome.